Hello and welcome to Black Cats Chat, the international fans podcast for Sunderland AFC. My name is Lee Thirkell. I'm from the Bilbao Black Cats, and today I'm joined by Robin Bond from the Czech Republic Branch. Robin, you're just outside Prague somewhere. How are you, mate? How's your day been?
Yeah, very good. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to everybody. Yeah, day's been pretty good. Weather's starting to improve in the Czech Republic, so been out in the garden doing a bit of gardening.
Oh, nice. What's the temperature there, mate?
Only about 10, 12 degrees, but dry.
Oh, I was going to say, you say that weather's nice. I'm thinking now I must be living in paradise here because we've got 22 degrees here in Bilbao, mate.
Very nice, about the same as it is back in the UK, I think, as well.
Yeah, I had to put my sun cream on today, man.
Nice, nice.
Anyway, listen, I've just had a couple of egg sandwiches, so I'm fully charged and ready to get stuck into the last night's match against Norwich. We drew 0-0. What are your thoughts on that performance and result, Robin?
I guess game of two halves. I think the first half was very, very slow, very, very deliberate. And then I think after the changes, what changes are around about 70 minutes, I think. So second half a little bit better and seemed to create a little bit more after the substitutions. But for me personally, I think very, very frustrating first half. I understand, where we are, and I guess looking at the way the team was set up last night, I think a few changes from the team at the weekend. So, my thinking is that the management team have got the playoffs in mind. I think we've settled for the playoffs, and I think, a bit of squad rotation, resting a few players, hopefully getting them fit and ready and raring to go for the playoffs.
Are you concerned about the performances? Not in terms of, I think defensively we're sound because that's why we're three clean sheets in a row now. But offensively, going forward, do you think there's I don't know, a bit of lack of cohesion between the forward line and the midfield? And it's a bit of a concern because obviously going to the playoffs, you want to have that bit of momentum. We've got the momentum that, listen, we're unbeaten in three. We're fourth in the table. We're 15 points or whatever it is behind our rivals behind us. But is that enough?
Well, I think when we've spoken in the past, I guess you know what my thoughts are. I love the football we were playing at the start of the season. I thought we were playing some very, very good attacking, free-flowing football. Results spoke for themselves. We're top of the league for a spell. And I've been having some interesting discussions with other people, kind of on websites and Facebook pages about going into this part of the season. I am concerned that we're not playing good football. I like to watch entertaining football, and we're not seeing entertaining football at the moment. The results, I agree. Defensively, we look pretty solid. 3 clean sheets, I think it is in a row. But I'm with you going forward. I think tinkering with the team a little bit, and I'm a great believer that confidence breeds confidence. So if you're winning games, scoring goals, what better way to go into the playoffs? But on the flip side of that, resting the players may be a good thing. I'm just not sure whether too much tinkering going into the playoffs is a good thing or a bad thing.
Yep. No, and last night he did rest a couple of players. I mean, there was Isidore was on the bench, Roberts was on the bench, Tommy Watson came in on the left, bit of a controversial decision, upset some fans.
Yeah,
Alexic came on, and when people saw the lineup, they thought that Rig will go to the right hand side and Alexic will go like number 10 or advanced midfield role, but it was the opposite. Alexic
yeah,
went to the right hand side, and for me that was just like baffling because he's barely played this season.
yeah.
He's he's naturally an advanced midfielder, centre midfielder. Why would you put him in that position in a difficult away match for a lad at 19 years old, still learning the language? He needs minutes, but he needs minutes in his own position and not from the
Yeah.
starting lineup, I don't think.
Yeah, and I thought he looked out of place as well. I'm not sure whether that was the position he was playing, but he just never ever got into the game, and I don't think the game did him any favors last night. I think a lot of people um, would be very critical of the way he played. He gave a lot of possession away. I don't think he went past the fullback once, and obviously ended up getting substituted, I think, later on in the game. Um, but again, the big debate around 2 up front. I know we were away from home. Um, I for one have been crying out for Meander and Isidore up front together. We've seen it in flashes and spells. but they just don't seem to want to do it. If you are going to rotate the team and you are kind of experimenting and resting players for the playoffs, why not give it a go?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a criticism of Alexic as such, no, because he is like an advanced midfielder playing out of position, but he did have a poor game. But I think is it a bit of like bad management from Lebris to put him in that position, or
Well, possibly,
is he trying to get a reaction from him, or I mean, what's he trying to achieve from putting him in that position?
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his most natural position is. I wasn't sure that he was kind of playing in that role just behind the front the front man. I think all the games that I remember he's come in that wide right position. Um, but no, I think he did play central midfield one of the games, I think, but
I think it was against Stoke, wasn't it, in the FA Cup,
yeah,
and he
yes,
scored that
yeah,
game.
yeah. But no, I'm not sure why he played him there, and he certainly didn't have a good game.
Yeah, and I think also Tommy Watson on the other wing as well. I don't think he was very involved either, but I think isn't it typifying the way that we're playing in terms of the way we're shaping up to start games that we're not playing on the front foot. We're kind of like being conservative and waiting to see what teams are going to do, and then we kind of like try and deal with that problem. But we've got basically wingers. We've got Roberts on one side, Watson on one side, Alexis on the other, who both naturally want to get forward, but they're kind of being held back, restricted because they've got to stay in the shape. And when they're receiving the ball in areas where it's very compact. They haven't got much
Yeah,
space.
and I agree. I mean, look no further than Mienda, how deep Mienda was playing last night. There was times where he was back further goal side than some of the midfield players. Um, and just not get the ball when the ball was going out. We're far too deep, and the Norwich were just picking the ball up and coming back at us. So, and again, I think pretty similar to the way we set up on Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Um, so, and Watson for me, I think let's have the debate. Should he have played? Should he not have played? For me, he's gone. And I know that's controversial, and people say he's still a Sunderland player and he's going to be wanting to push to get us promoted. I've got a slightly different view. His mind's got to be elsewhere. He's got to be thinking about where he's moving on to, and is he? I'm not saying he's not giving 100%. He put a couple of tackles in last night, but at the back of his mind, he's got to be thinking, if I do go out here and I get injured, that's me move screwed. Well, not screwed, but it sets him back.
Hmm.
Yes, he's still a Sunderland player. Sunderland are paying his wages, but I think the whole scenario about the timing of the announcement and everything very very strange, and I didn't expect to see him playing again, so I was very surprised when he did start last night.
Well, I think that was basically down to Mundle's injury, wasn't it? And the fact that
Yeah.
Lefay has just come back, hasn't he? So I don't think Lebris wants to kind of risk Lefay too much at the minute.
No,
I think
exactly.
I think Lefay will probably start on Saturday against Swansea. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if he makes a sub up to 60, 65 minutes and says, "Okay, Lefay, you come off, mate, and we'll save you for the next match." What do you
Yeah.
reckon?
Yeah, I think potentially. I'm not even sure he will start, but because I think he's definitely holding him back. I think the playoffs. He's a great player. I think he'll be raring to go, and I think we'll want him to be raring to go for the semi final of the playoffs. Whoever we should be playing. So, but it'd be interesting to see how we do play kind of the next 4 or 5 games, and how much the squad is rotated, and how much he does rest players, and how much he changes it about.
Well, I mean, you can only really say that the rotation has been last night with Robertson Isidore, right? Because Job didn't play because he was injured,
Yeah,
simple as. So if he hadn't been injured, most likely he would have played last night.
yeah.
And then you've got, for example, Mundle is injured, so he's going to
Mundell
come
injured,
out.
yeah,
So I wouldn't say it's a case of rotation. I think like Labrie likes to keep the same players playing all the time,
yeah,
but because our squad, our 11 is so young, especially in the offensive areas, I think that he needs to get more lads involved. I mean, listen, Alexic and Watson aren't good enough to start matches week in week out. And I don't think Chris Rigg is yet. I think Chris Rigg's a fantastic player, but I think he's reached a point of his short career so far that he just can't continue putting in performance after performance every week at that level for a 17-year-old lad. I think that he needs to also be like his game time needs to be managed. And like they need to be used like 20, 25 minutes at the end of the match to kind of like give them that little breather, give them that experience, that exposure. I think Rig is being flogged. Watson and Alexic, they're not ready to start
Yeah,
games, but I think you can trust them to come on and do 20 minutes.
yeah. No, I like Regan. I tend to agree. He's played a lot of games for a young lad. But I guess that shows, we've got a good squad, but we still don't have a I don't think the strength going through in a lot of positions. And I think midfield, is one of the areas where we may be struggling for some strength in depth.
Yep.
And I think that, Job was out last night, probably the reason that he moved Brown into midfield. Would he have done that if Job hadn't been injured? Would he have stuck with the back four that he played the last two games? Maybe he would have. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and on the midfield then, Dan Neil had a nervy moment last night, didn't he, where he lost the ball on the edge of the box. He was dribbling out. We've seen that time and time again from him, hasn't it? We thought that he'd eradicated it from his game because he's normally been quite reliable.
Yeah, I thought he probably one of his poorer games last night. He's had a great season. I think he's for me player of the year. For the way he's played, he had started off, I think, earlier in the season a little bit slowly, and I'm not sure whether that was the weight of the captaincy hanging over his head or what. But started off not so well. But I think he's come into his own. And last night was one of his poorer games. Distribution wasn't the best. I think the one you've mentioned where he tried to dribble it out and gave it away, and then a couple of times during the first half where 10, 15 yard passes were put astray. So definitely not one of his better nights.
Where do you see him going forward, Robin? Do you see him staying in that defensive midfield role, or would you like to see him back where he was before, further forward?
Again, good question. I think he's a great holding midfield player. And I guess the question is who you've got around him and who you've got playing in midfield with him as to where he plays. If you've got Rig in the team, I think naturally a more forward-looking player. And I'd see Neil and Job kind of doing the more of the holding role.
Hmm. No, because like the way I see it is that listen, Daniel technically is very good, but I just think he lacks that little bit of aggression to play that
Mm.
defensive midfield role, and sometimes the spatial awareness for that role as well that you need. Because I think naturally he's got a tendency to want to get forward because he's always played as a
Yeah,
number eight. And when we saw him before playing number eight, you saw him like he was like doing 1-2s, he was like getting into the box, he was scoring. But I think when he's playing that defensive midfield role, he's obviously restricted. But I think he just kind of sometimes forgets that he's playing that role.
yeah,
So like I'm gonna put like a very, very wild suggestion out there, but I'm hoping that maybe Salis can be fit for the playoffs. That would give us an option to have a defensive midfielder. Now he hasn't been he hasn't been the greatest of all signings, but
no,
he is a naturally holding midfielder, and that when I've seen him play, he does tend to stay in that quarter of the pitch. He doesn't.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? He doesn't move. He doesn't go forward. He just stays, and that's his area. And I think that's what we need at the minute is someone to kind of help us control the area of the pitch because last night and the last couple of games, I've been like watching the way teams attack us, and they get a very easy run at our defense. You often see them that it's so easy to bypass our midfield that you have like O'Nien and Mepham and Hume and whoever is left back on the back foot, and you've got players running at them. And then I compare that with our style, and I'm thinking our style was that we rarely have our forward players or our midfield players having their team on the back foot. It's always basically from left to right, slow build up,
yeah,
and we're trying to pass it around them. So it's like for me, our midfield is not organised and it's lacking something, and it shouldn't be because with a three-man midfield, we should be having a better grip of the game.
Yeah, I just again, one of my frustrations and is that we don't get the ball forward quick enough. I've just been having a similar conversation this afternoon on another post about the style of football, how the number of times we get to the halfway line and we turn and come backwards. Even going into the centre forward or the front guy, the ball goes in and then he turns around and he passes the ball backwards or sideways, and we just not direct, don't move the ball quick enough forward for me, which we were doing earlier in the season. No, I don't know why we've kind of changed the style of play,
Mhm.
because it was effective, and people have talked about the high press. There was a couple of occasions last night where we did press in very highly, and one of them almost led to me end of scoring. But far too often we just sit off and let their back three or back four play the ball across the back line and let them come at us.
Yeah, and I think that's a very telling point, Robin, because I remember I think it was Christian Speakman. I mentioned this I think on the last pod as well that in an interview on YouTube when they said like what type of coach they want and what type of football they want to play, they said that they want to play a type of football, a style of football that identifies with the people of Sunderland, the fans of Sunderland, which
Yeah,
is off your seat, high intensity, high press. A tackle gets the same cheer as a goal, and that's how we started the season. But as the
yeah.
season's gone on, we've just kind of like gradually gone down. Is that not a concern? That
Well, it
the
is for me because I like to be entertained when I'm watching football.
Yeah.
And again, debate going on this afternoon with some people about, you know, is winning the most important thing? Yes, you want to win, but I'd like to win and be entertained. Give me the team that Peter Reid had. With Nicky Summerby and Alan Johnson flying down the wing, pinging
Mm,
balls in and winning by 2 or 3 goals.
mm,
Well, that was exciting, entertaining football. That's as a fan, that's what I want to see. Yes, I
mm.
want to see us win, but I'd rather see us win entertainingly as win ugly.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer that. I want to win all the time, and if we win ugly, yeah, we win ugly. But I'd rather us be winning with entertaining football.
Yeah, I had the same debate last night actually with one of the guests on the podcast, Gavin. Gavin's he's in Florida. He's from Peterlee originally, and
Yeah,
and he said basically, his comment was, if you want entertainment, watch WWE. This is competition, not entertainment. And I was like, it is both nowadays, isn't it? I think football it's become more.
well, it's no, like I said, that team that we had under Reid was, in my time of watching Sunderland, certainly the most entertaining and exciting times of me watching Sunderland. And I've watched them for a long time, and I've never been entertained like I was watching that team. And I know it's chalk and cheese, but at the end of our game, I turned over to watch the end of the Champions League game, Arsenal Real Madrid,
Mm,
and the entertainment value in 15 minutes of that last night was more than what I'd seen in 90 minutes of us. That's harsh. And I know
mm.
it's chalk and cheese, and these teams are, the best teams in Europe, but that's the sort of football I want to watch.
Yeah, no, and that's the sort of football we had at the start of the season.
Yeah,
Um, so obviously on social media, then you get all types of comments. A lot of fans are saying, "Well, listen, it's been a great season. We got 75 points, 3 clean sheets, 7 from 9." But there's more to it than that, isn't there? I mean, we've got the playoffs around the corner, and we've got one team above us, what, three teams above us that we don't know who we're going to be playing yet, potentially playing, but that have got what, 7, 8, 9 points more than us. And then we've got, for example, Coventry, who stuffed us a few weeks ago, who could be in the mix.
yeah.
Middlesbrough is a local rivalry match, which like again is a bit of a banana skin. Could go either way. You know what I mean? I think like there is more to it than just the picking up the points and it's been a good season. Like you have to have good momentum going into the playoffs because otherwise, this season is beginning to remind me of the Jack Ross season in League One, the first season in League One, where we had all those draws. I think now we must have what, 15 draws or 14 draws, I think it is.
I don't remember how many it is, but yeah, a lot of draws. And I'll be the first to hold my hands up and say at the start of the season, having appointed a manager who we knew very little about with a very young squad, um, you know, hats off to the to what we've done. I think we've had we have had a very good season, um, and the guys deserve credit for what we've done. But I'm a bit like you. I think it could have been so much better had we continued with the style of football we played. And this is the big debates and big arguments I'm having with other people. If we'd gone at teams, I think without question we could have potentially been in the top two now. With other people chasing behind us. Um, uh, and I agree. You look at the teams around us in the playoffs. Bristol City, great momentum.
Yep.
Middlesbrough have come from nowhere. I was really surprised when I saw the league table on Saturday night and saw they were sat in fifth or whatever it was. I know
Hmm.
they lost last night, but they've got momentum. Coventry have had a good spell. It's probably the team who's going to finish in third, be that Leeds, Burnley, or Sheffield United, are probably one of the teams lacking form. People would argue our form's good, but the worry for me is we hard to break down, which is good. We're not going to concede many goals, but we're not going to score many goals.
Mm.
Somebody called me out on something yesterday, and I haven't been back and checked. But have we scored 3 goals in a game this season? I don't think we have.
More than three. Well, the Sheffield Wednesday game and the Swansea away and Portsmouth. I think those are the only three times.
That we scored.
Sheffield Wednesday we scored four.
Yeah,
Swansea we scored three. We won 3-2,
correct. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then to Portsmouth away. I think we won 3-0 or 3-1. I think
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
3-1.
So yeah, but there's not many games and I know you only need to win the playoff semi-final 1-0 and draw 0-0 in the second leg and you go through with the final, win the final 1-0 and you're in the Premier League. But there's a there's a lack of momentum going into the playoffs for me, and we're not playing um entertaining football. And I'm arguing against myself here. Do you need to play entertaining football to win the playoffs and go up? No, you
But
don't.
you don't, absolutely not. But I think it's also quite telling as well, the comments from within the club. Like for example, Regis Lebris mentioned, I think it was after the Millwall game, one of his comments were it's hard to sometimes pick up the players when you're low on confidence.
Yeah,
And that was a very surprising comment that he made
yeah. And like
because
I said earlier, confidence breeds confidence. You go into the playoffs with 3 or 4 decent wins under your belt, having played some good football.
yeah.
You've got to feel better about going into it.
And then some of the players as well, like they're coming out with some fighting talk. I mean, Trey Hume after his goals, he came out and said, for example, at this stage of the season, it's all about results. Performance don't really matter. And I'm thinking, like, I don't agree with that.
Which, well, yeah, and I tend not to agree with it, but you can't argue with it.
You can't argue with it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
because obviously, like, performances do matter because results, okay, listen, we're in the playoffs. We're comfortably in the playoffs. The top two's probably gone. Playoffs is comfortable. It's been comfortable for a good while.
yeah.
I think it isn't about the results at this stage. I think now the position that we're in, the unique position that we're in, we need to work on those performances, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd like to see us do that. I really would. I know some people are not bothered about it, and all they want is us to win. But I'd like to see us win well and win playing good football.
Well,
You know,
because we're
'cause-
capable of it, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because we've shown we can do it, and that's the frustration for me that it's basically the same group of players that we had at the start of the season, but the style's changed, and that's got to be driven by the coaches, not the guys go out and tell them what the coaches tell them to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess that leads us on to the next question, which a bloody $1 million question is, should we go up? Then what do we do next season? That's got to be a massive step. Um, I don't know your thoughts.
Well, do you know, I've got a Leeds supporting friend here, and we always say that Leeds have got a great squad. They got parachute payments, and they got a Premier League players and Premier League squad and all that. And my my mate was telling me last night, he was like saying, "God help us, Lee, if we go up, we need a whole new team." I was like, well, if you need a new team, imagine us.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
we've got the makings of some good young players, but you know the experience that they need to make that step up. The gulf is massive. You know, and I hear people say, well, let's go up and go down with a parachute payment and then build to go back up again. You know, going into
tell that to Luton. I mean,
yeah, yeah. You know, you're going into well, tell that to all three teams up there this season.
yeah,
Yeah. So, you know, if you go up, you've got to go up and want to compete. And I'm not sure, you know, what the ambition of the owners are. I guess that the you know we want to be up there and we want to be competing with the best, but it's going to be a hell of a long journey.
yeah. Right then. So moving on to the rest of the game. I mean, there were very few chances, weren't there? I mean, Mayenda had that chance where we did the high press, but he couldn't get out of his feet. And then
Yeah,
he had another chance in the second half, didn't he? Where the ball came in with him, and he kind of again hit it on the half volley on his left foot, and it went wide. But
yeah.
I mean,
There was the one that the keeper got his foot to as well from Mienda. But yeah, chances very few and far between.
and well, I mean, for me, our man of the match was Anthony Patterson because I thought he basically came out and collected everything quite well. There was like some balls into like Norwich put a lot of balls into the box, and sometimes the ball was like a very awkward bounce. And I thought that he dealt well with them, avoided any kind of fumbles. So for me, he was our man of the match, and I think that's kind of again a
Yeah,
telling sign that we are struggling further up the pitch.
yeah, for me, a toss up between him and Meffin for man of the match. But I think, um, again, I've been you know, critical of Patterson. I think the way he's commanded his box, hasn't been so good. I think his distribution hasn't been so good. But over the last few games, I think his distribution certainly improved.
Mm.
Um, and he is commanding his box a little bit better. I think he's still prone every now and again to sit on his line, but he's certainly coming out a little bit more. So I'm guessing that's something they've been working on as a coaching team with him.
Yeah, but I think like the decision to stick with him as well, and not drop him after the Leeds and was it the Hull game where he made those mistakes. So
Yeah, yeah,
I suppose that just like it's paid off, hasn't it? I think Leeds have dropped Melia, and I think they've struggled since they dropped him. So
yeah.
um, right then, so we've got Swansea City on Saturday. It's International Fans Day. We're going to be doing a live stream, aren't we? Robin, you're going to be signed up for that, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna join. I'll certainly hook up with everybody before the game from here in Prague. But it would be nice to be over there with everybody. I've never actually made it over for one of the international fans days, but I saw a lot of pictures from it last year. It looked like a good weekend and great for everybody from around the world to get together.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely brilliant. And my idea for this podcast stemmed from going over International Fans Day twice, and just like wanting to keep in connection with people and build those stronger bonds. So we'll be doing a live stream online from 1:30 UK time. If you want to get in touch or if you want to participate in it, just send us an email, bilbaoblackcats@gmail.com, or look for Bilbao Black Cats on our social media pages on X, Twitter, or X, Facebook, and Instagram. And yeah, hopefully we're gonna have like a good few number on there on Saturday. But so anyway, on to Saturday, Robin. Swansea at home. Again, Swansea is a team that at the minute has probably got nothing to really to play for. They're in no man's land. Um, what are you expecting from a home match with 5 games to go? We know that we're in the playoffs. What's he going to do, do you think?
Well, I think pretty similar to what we saw last night. I think you'll see maybe some players getting a run out who haven't got a run out. Um, I think you might see some changes from the team we put out last night. Um, and you know, that's what I think he'll do. I think there'll be a few changes, and I think there'll be getting some players some game time who maybe haven't had the game time, getting us ready for going into the playoffs. Because I think that's where our mindset is now. It's getting set up for that.
Yeah, I mean, who do you think is going to get the game time though? Because I mean, there's Alexic, there's Watson. I mean, we don't. You mentioned before your thoughts on him. Shelder, I imagine, is going to play at left back again.
Yeah, I mean, you know, does he give Jones a bit of a longer run out? Jones got some game time last night. Does he give him some more time out on the pitch? Um, Yeah, not sure. I mean, Lefay, I think, needs again. He's probably wanting to keep him wrapped in cotton wool, but I think he needs after being out, he'll need some minutes under his belt. Does he give him a bit of a longer run tomorrow? Um, does he? I'm guessing he may put Isidore back in and rest Mienda. Um, yeah,
What would you do? Would you put Isidore in from the start? Because
well,
he's obviously not going to play him at the same time because I think he realizes that he's in a catch-22 situation where if he plays both of them and one of them gets injured, he hasn't got a backup striker.
no,
But
I agree, but I would like to see them, just as a give it a go, play the two of them up front as a a bit of an experiment. There's nothing to lose. We're not going to make the playoffs now. I
Mhm.
don't think anybody's going to catch us for fourth place. So um, give it a go. I would, but that's my view as a somebody who wants to see two up front for a change.
Yeah. And like part of me thinks, Robin, that like Lebris is doing this on purpose. It's all part of like a deeper, sinister plan to make us look crap, and then in the playoffs, like blow them away.
He'll do
And
whatever
like,
he wanted us to do in the playoffs. He'll play two up front. We'll win 4-0 or something like that.
and it'll be
And
all a masterclass, what a master plan.
exactly,
And
exactly.
but then it is kind of as well the comments from French football fans do kind of have been saying or did say when Lebris first joined that when he started with Lorient, he had a good start, but then he started to kind of dwindle.
Yeah,
And it seems like the same pattern is happening here.
yeah, yeah. No, I had that thought the other day that he did do well and then not so well towards the end. So I don't know. And then changing coach and staff halfway through the season, which I think we've talked about in the past was maybe planned. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure. I just hope we can recover some momentum and start and play some good football again.
Would you? I mean, one thing that I would like to see is that I would like to see Lebris. I don't know, maybe it's not physically see it, but I mean, just to see the players have a reaction and like act as if they've had a rocket up their ass. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like actually run because I would love to see our stats, our running stats compared to our opponents in recent matches. Because I would bet that West Brom and Norwich players probably ran more distance or covered more ground than we did.
Well, I think probably possibly because we've sat back and we've defended. We've invited teams on, so
Mm.
you invite teams on. I think naturally they're going to do more running than you are. Um, but I'd like to see us just up the momentum and have a bit more urgency and get at teams a little bit more.
Hmm.
Play that high pressing game that we played earlier in the season.
Hmm.
Um, So it's great. I'm loving the debate amongst everybody at the moment, and it's great how people's opinions differ, and that's what football's all about. Um, Not everybody's going to be right all of the time. It just depends, what you want out of the game. And I for one want to see entertaining football. That's what got me into the game. The excitement of watching your team tear teams apart, and um, that's why I watch football.
Yeah. Well, at the minute, Robin, like I mean, my glass is a bit half empty at the minute in terms of our chances in the playoffs because it just the way the performances in terms of like scoring goals and the offensive play. Give me some optimism. Give me something to get my glass. Give me something to
Oh,
get my glass half full, mate. Because like
oh,
recently,
I wish I could because I'm a little bit negative at the moment because I'm frustrated at the way we're playing football. But if we sat here in a month and a half's time, whatever it is, and we've been promoted and we've won 3 games ugly 1-0, I'd be happy.
yeah, and
Um,
we'd look like pillocks, wouldn't we? So.
we would. And God willing, we do it. And we capable of doing. We're capable of grinding out results against anyone. Some of our best football, I think, has been against the teams at the top.
Hmm.
We seem to raise our game and play well against those teams. So that bodes well. But I'm a little bit with you. The lack of momentum going into the playoffs, unless it changes over the next 3 or 4 games, doesn't bode well against some of the teams who are, playing well and have come and built a run.
Hmm. Right. Well, on that note, Robin, we're going to wrap it up. But before you go, give us a prediction for Saturday.
2-1 win.
A 2-1 win. Right.
Two
Any
one
any
win.
goal scorers there, or are you gonna leave it at blank?
Oh, just 2-1 win.
A 2-1 win.
That's enough for me. My predictions are never very good. So
Do you know what? I mean, I think I've gone for a 1-0 win the last 3 games. So I'm going to go for another 1-0 win.
1-0
I
win.
think it's the Bulgarian Danny. He's like infected me with his favorite 1-0 scoreline. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win, mate. Anyway,
Excellent.
listen, Robin, thanks for coming on this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day, mate. And how are the lads?
Away the lads, and I'll speak to you on Saturday.